All right, welcome back to Valhalla Games, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. So tonight we have got the usual roundup, me, Dan. We've got the ever-present Rex as well. So
Hey,
Rex.
Dan. How you going? How you going, podcast land?
Yeah, good to have you on. Thanks, Rex. And we are joined tonight, or tonight our time, by a fantastic guest. And this guest is Mr. Aaron Russell. So g'day, Aaron.
Hey Dan, hey Rex, thanks for having me. Pleasure to join. I had the pleasure of playing you at MOAB last year, and had the pleasure of joining Rex again this year. So it's a good time. But thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And I'm sure our listeners are happy to hear another voice apart from our boring dulcet tones. So thanks for joining us tonight. Aaron, why don't you, for the sake of people who maybe don't know much about you, maybe outside the Australian scene, tell us a bit about yourself and tell us a bit about your pathway into wargaming and generally, and maybe bolt action specifically.
Oh yeah, good question. I probably like a lot of people started. I think my first toys were little plastic army men. That we used to play with in the sandpit and make up our own rules. I think we used to like roll a dice, and we'd set up all our men and we'd roll the dice, and that's how many marbles you got to throw or lob at the other guys' plastic soldiers to try and score hits or whatever it was. Anyway, yeah, so it started at a pretty young age, playing with little toy soldiers that probably aren't all that different from the ones we're playing with now, although painted a heck of a lot better, that's for sure. But that was sort of the start of it all, and sort of just after school or through sort of the end of high school, probably went through a bit of a phase where I didn't play a lot of games.
There are more interesting things at that age, aren't there?
Yeah. They're doing
for most of us, not everyone.
Yeah. But luckily, I found my way back into the games. I played a few. I used to play some. I usually prefer historical sort of stuff. I played a little bit of Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
A little bit of that. Which from your country, New Zealand, there's a lot of good sets and scenes in Lord of the Rings there, that's for sure. But
Rex is a fan of Middle Earth.
Yeah, I am a fan. I'm slowly amassing an army. You know, it's that thing when you don't have time. If you don't have time to play, you can always buy stuff. Well, that's the phase I'm at now. So I'm just buying everything that I can find that's used on eBay, and I'll be there. Maybe I'll drag you back into it. But anyway, I digress. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it's good. I played a few other sort of ancient tabletop sort of games as well. And I remember one time at CanCon, I was walking around checking out all the games and the shops and that sort of thing. And I sort of saw a World War II game, and World War II's always been a big interest of mine from just a historical point of view, and Band of Brothers and all that sort of stuff that we all know and love. So saw some guys playing, and I said, "Oh, what is this, like a museum game?" Because I was just so taken in by the terrain and the figures and the paint job and just the aesthetics of the game. I just couldn't believe it. Not to slag out other gaming systems, but sometimes the terrain and the models is a little bit. It's not as pleasing to the eye. Definitely nowhere near as pleasing to the eye as Bolt Action. So very fortunate in that sense. And that's kind of what dragged me in. Just got chatting to them, and I'm like, oh, wow, I've got to play this game. It's like you're playing in a museum almost.
How long ago was this, Aaron? How long ago was this, Aaron?
This was in 2019. And then I sort of ummed and ahed about it for probably a good 6 months, and then COVID happened, and I'm like, well, I may as well buy a rule book because I'm stuck in my apartment and I can't do much. So I ordered a rule book and I think I read the rule book like 3 times in that year because I just had nothing else to do. Bought some figures and tried to organise some games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was kind of the entry point. But it was definitely the aesthetics that I think drew me in initially, for sure.
Yeah, I understand that. It's actually a really visually pleasing game. If you stumble across, there's been many a person stumble across Bolt Action being played, or Chain of Command, or something like that, and drawn in by it. Because I think you can find it particularly pleasing because you're used to. We can relate to the structures. We can relate to, it's not fantasy terrain, and so if it's done well, it's particularly striking to you. As you say, it appears like it's literally our world in miniature and you sort of museum, as you said.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly there. Actually, Rex and I had an opportunity to look at Chain of Command on the second day, and the tables up there when we had a look, they were phenomenal as well. Actually,
Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm gonna ask you guys more about that later because
okay.
I
All
saw
right,
some
well,
no, I saw some of the pictures and it looked fantastic. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have got to tell me about that because I mean it was amazing both times I've been there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about it because I saw some of those tables. All right, so you've managed to find your way to Bolt Action. So I suppose, and COVID hit. And when you came out of COVID, what sort of prompted you to get to yourself to events and really continue playing in a group sort of setting or competitively?
yeah. Well, I used to play at CanCon, but I was just keen to start playing some games. I think just being hunkered down in an apartment for so long, and I sort of living by myself, so I didn't have a lot of human interaction. I think I was just keen to
Yeah,
get out there and play some games, and I think we all were at that point as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I I was just eager to get out there and play some games, and some friends were starting to get into it as well, and brother started playing as well. So yeah, it was, and the local gaming club as well. There was a bunch of guys that had just started getting into it too. So I think COVID must have had the same effect on not on a few other people, not just myself, which was good.
yeah, good. I think it's that thing, when you're left alone to your own devices. I suppose people were watching war movies on TV or documentaries or something. So
Yeah.
the 30 plus or the 40 plus or whatever age people get the bug for World War II must have struck some people during the time.
Yeah.
I saw a really funny meme the other day, and it said at the age of 35, I think it was, or 40, whatever it was. It said a man must choose from one of the following interests points. And it was World War II, ancient warfare, Vikings, and it's really funny because it really mirrored exactly what happened to me. My wife said to me the other day, she says, you weren't always interested in war. And I'm like, yeah. Once you reach a certain age, you have to sort of
Yeah.
take up a hobby. It's the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody else obviously decided to take up that sort of hobby at the same time. Isn't it funny? Humans, we're a funny bunch. And so where were you living at the time? Is it where you are now? And what club are you a member of?
Yeah, in Brisbane. I'm still in Brisbane. I've, well, I actually would try to get games wherever I could. In like the back end of 2020 when I started, just trying to learn. Played a whole stack of games with a guy, a friend who now actually lives in Canberra.
Right, okay.
Yeah, yeah. James. So yeah, he goes to he's been to last two CanCons as well, and he would have loved to have been able to make it to MOAB. But yeah, he's just got a bit like yourself, Dan. But yeah, so we played a whole stack of games and sort of learnt playing together, and then I most recently ended up down at Brisbane Independent Gamers in Paddington, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew Crapp sort of heads that up and runs that now. He's
Yeah, recognise the name. Yep.
yeah, very generous with prize support and getting around to supporting events and kicking things off in the scene up here as well, and really growing it, and got a few good pockets of communities of Bolt Action now, starting to build from the back of the work that he's done, and also Trevor. So they've sort of started a bit of a group out to Toowoomba, and I know there's sort of one forming in Gladstone. So it's been really good to see.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's Andrew from the Warriors Den, right?
Yeah, Warriors Den. Yep.
Warriors Den, which is thewarriorsden.com.au if anyone wants to check him out. It's an online web store, but I don't know if he has a bricks and mortar store or what, but I know he's very active in the community and great with prize support, and a really nice guy to chat to as well. I chatted to him when I was looking for a gaming mat, and he definitely put me in the right direction, so that was good.
Yeah, definitely second that for sure.
Great. And so you've really got into the gaming. You've been to a number of events or tournaments, whatever people would like to call them. So can you tell us where you've travelled around Australia, or even further afield if you have, and played in events, or just got some games in?
Yeah, done been to a few now. Been to CanCon twice. I've been to MOAB twice now. I went to Tasmania as well. Played down there mainly just because of the terrain and
and the guys are awesome, aren't they?
The guys are awesome.
Yeah.
They can, put a labour of love into the terrain, and the tables down there are phenomenal. So,
one day we'll get there.
Get away. Oh yeah, no, definitely. You won't regret it. That's for sure.
For those of you who are not from the land of the long brown smear, that Canberra is kind of down the bottom third on the east coast-ish as you look at the country. And Brisbane is in Queensland, which is sort of up the top, or the top half of the eastern side of the country. Tasmania is that little bit down the bottom that they call the mainland. And apparently we're the big island. But an island off the back of Australia, and then in between those you've got Brisbane, Melbourne, which is in Victoria, and that's a hotbed of Bolt Action stuff as well, with Brad from the official Warlord Games podcast, and a whole lot of guys down there, Operation Bear, all kinds of stuff. So all up the eastern side of Australia, there's all kinds of groups and all kinds of tournaments, and it seems like you've been to a whole stack of them, and I'm behind and I need to catch up.
That's it. I'm hearing that too. I think we should all head to Tasmania one weekend.
That sounds good.
And so looking or moving things on now, we've spoken about MOAB a couple of times now. So I suppose Mother of All Battles, one of Sydney's premier events, and reputedly one of Australia's biggest events, possibly second, contentious fact, after CanCon in Canberra. So what made you go? I was lucky enough to play you not this year, but the year before, and that was a great game, and people can look back through our episodes and find that one. Didn't end well for me. My guys were just laying down in the grass, dead. So listen, find a back episode for that one. But it was a fantastic game. That's where we met first, and it was a pleasure to meet and play with you. So this year, obviously, you guys were in the mix. You guys got your tickets. I couldn't go. What did you decide you were going to bring to the event this year in regards to armies, Aaron?
Do you want me to go first, or Rex? Or?
Yeah, we'll go for you since you're the visitor, mate. Why don't you tell us?
Well, I haven't actually played much since CanCon, and I was hoping to get a new force together and play something different, because all I've sort of really ever played has been, British was what I started with, and I started to put together a bit of a Romanian force, which I played, and then I played Soviets at CanCon for the first time, and I hadn't really played since then. Played a weekend in April in Brisbane as well. But yeah, I hadn't played a lot of games, and I hadn't done any hobbying. I I hadn't started any new forces or bought any new units since then, so I was like, I'm probably not going to have time. Haven't set myself any goals or anything, so I'm probably just going to have to run something I've already got and used before. So I have used the Soviets at least, so I thought I'd get them out of the box again, but I wanted to make it a little bit different than last time, within the means of what I could paint up in the 3 or 4 week window prior to the MOAB. So
good decision making process. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how we landed on that force. So very much similar to basically what I did at CanCon, but just changed things up. I actually went from late war to early war this time. So I used early war theme in and around Stalingrad. I guess that's sort of early to mid, more mid really, but earlier than 1945. In my CanCon list. So
sure.
And do you have your list there? Can you give it to us in all its glory?
Yeah. So the main changes was just dropping out a stack of not a stack. I think I had 4 or 5 pans of Fausts at CanCon, so they all got dropped. And then I dropped. I had a M60 multi-launcher thing that was a heck of a lot of fun to play. But I got rid of that one. Got some bomb dog teams, which I'd never used. They were interesting. Not all that helpful for me, but they were definitely a good time. And what else did we add?
I love your description of that. Yep, bomb dogs, always a good time. Yep.
Yeah, they're good time.
I got a bomb dog story actually when we come to it as well. Remind me.
Okay, all right, good. I'm keen to hear it. I had a couple myself, so maybe they might be similar.
Yeah.
But what else did we add? I added a Katusha, and then dropped some of the infantry as well. So not a heck of a lot of changes. I think I added an artillery auto cannon piece instead of the howitzer or whatever I used last time.
Right.
So just some subtle changes, basically just shifting from 1945 to 1942.
And multi-launchers that can fire every turn.
Yeah, a bit more of a reliable multi-launcher than definitely not as fun as the M60, but probably a little bit more effective.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good list. So Rex, why don't you tell us what you took to MOAB this year?
Yeah, sure. I got my list here. I'm all ready to go. Well, I'm super organized. I got the things out of the box from MOAB about 15 minutes ago. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But again, I took Soviets again for exactly the same reasons as you know from the last podcast episode, or maybe haven't heard it yet, Aaron. But I'm painting up a Waffen SS army in autumn camo, so that autumn leaf camo, which is. I've set myself a year to do that, and it's October, and I've done 1 model, so I'm not doing so well. but I've still got time. It's all right. But yeah, so I decided to take my Soviets as well because I knew them and I had plenty of time to practice with them. I wasn't painting till 2 a.m. on the night before. Although I did have 7 guys to do in a week beforehand. Which for me, I'm a really slow painter. That was actually quite a lot, but managed to get those done up to a high standard for me. So I was real happy with that.
And they took you much less than a week as well. They only took you a couple of nights in the end, as I said on the YouTube. So that's something you should really be proud of. It's great job. Anyone who's interested, go and look at Rex's guys on YouTube. I actually posted them up there without him knowing because I was actually really impressed at how quick he was and how good they turned out after a couple of nights of spare time.
Yeah, just 7 guys, but having the all the paint recipe, which is freely available, I've just got to upload it again. Made it really quick. It's just able to go and select all my paints from my paint rack and just get on with it. So it was great. But anyway, so my list. So it was DERP, which stands for What, Dan?
Derp, the Derp list. So, democratically elected
Republic of Gamers. That's it. Yeah. So that's the guys. I think it's the guys in Tasmania, or at least Akhtar, or at least Akhtar's heading up that wolf pack. So interesting thing. Interesting list, actually. Very interesting. Allowed you to bring all the toys, but it restricted spam lists. So yeah, it was good. But anyway, 1,100 points. Put along an officer, first lieutenant, with a man, a guards squad, which is a 10-man Soviet infantry squad, all with SMGs, one with a Panzerfaust, my free Soviet rifle squad, love those free units, 12 men with a flag and upgraded to anti-tank. Another 10-man rifle squad, again, inexperienced green. Another 9-man rifle squad, inexperienced green. Assault engineer squad, veteran. They were my hard-hitting guys with a flamethrower, 2 Panzerfausts, everybody else with a SMG. So that was good. That came in. That worked really well. That squad.
Tasty.
I took the Frontnik Commissar, which is one that you gave me, Dan. I'd never heard of it before. I've got the book, but I hadn't read it. It's from the
Stalingrad book, I believe.
Stalingrad book, yeah. Yep. So that's a really cool commissar that allows you to not only does the normal stuff that commissars do, but he takes away the -1 to hit penalty for being inexperienced if he's within the 6 inches of a squad. So if you can get him between a couple of your inexperienced squads, that makes a huge difference. Not having that -1 to hit all the time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Especially on rifle squads, by the time you've moved them, you got -1 to hit, and it's at long range. You might as well not bother, pack up and go home and drink vodka. So medium mortar team, love my indirects with a spotter. Medium howitzer with a spotter. Sniper team, veteran sniper, Katusha. And the Katusha, spoiler, Katusha went really well. You know how Katushas just never go off? Well, mine went off. So T28 tank that I took to MOAB last year that did pretty well. That's the filthy 5 MMG gun tank. And a veteran truck with an MMG for getting guys on from outflank.
That was it. Truck, yeah, helpful.
1,100 points.
Okay, Aaron, what did you think of Akhtar and the guys' derp selector, the selector you guys used for this tournament?
Yeah, it was interesting. It basically just looks like a combining 2 generic reinforced platoons, except not having the ability. Well, yeah, not having to worry about the extra officer that you need to get to activate a second platoon.
Yeah.
But it kind of just felt like that, because it was kind of like, here's your officer and your infantry teams, and then you can basically have 2 of everything else, which is what would happen if you run a dual generic platoon. So it kind of felt a little bit like that to me, except you don't have to get the second officer that some people call an officer tax or something, just to get the second platoon. So I thought that was interesting. But I think, as Rex said, it was kind of just to give people the ability to bring the toys that they want to bring and use those without having to create a second platoon.
It was just limiting enough in certain areas to reduce spam, but gave you loads of freedom in other areas, including, as you say, removing that need to have a second officer. So, it looked really good. I was really impressed with it when I had a look at it on paper with some thoughts for Rex, or to compare what he was going to take and what I would have taken. So, I thought it was really impressive. So, I think it was a good choice for the guys to use that for you. You both sound like you're really happy with it. That's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, there was probably only one thing that I was that I didn't like about it was it limits. So you know how like all the minor powers, the Axis ones, they can get a free. Some of them get like a free artillery piece or Axis support. Well, the Axis support isn't an extra unit; it just takes up one of the slots in the selector. So it kind of feels like everyone just gets that.
I found that as well. So whereas Germans get one extra dice with all their machine guns, and they get the officer rule. That's their army special rule. But my army special rule is an extra free squad, but I didn't get it because I had to use a slot for that squad kind of thing. In fact, it didn't bother me at all. But yeah, that was an aspect of it.
Yeah, so it was just the minor powers, I think. Although Pete West still run Romanians, and they're probably most affected by that because they get that free artillery piece that would generally give them a second one when no one else can.
Good on them.
And the Axis support, which just took up a slot as well. So it was good to still see someone doing that. But to me, it just felt like it took the flavour out of those sort of minor powers a little bit.
Yeah,
that's interesting observation. Yeah, good on you. I'll ask you more, guys, about the armies later and sort of variation we found. But just moving on then. So the venue. I mean, we've spoken about this venue before. We found it was really good. Like good use of the rooms and stuff. Going there again this time, guys. How did you find it? Was it too packed or whatever? Rex, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so I really love the venue. Let's get the negative out of the way for a start. It was 35 degrees or 36 degrees on both the Saturday and the Sunday. It was supposed to be hotter on the Sunday and not as hot on the Saturday, but I just found it equally as draining both days. But that's not a fault of the venue at all, because you're never going to be able to air condition a massive hall like that in a community centre. But it was crazy hot, especially I found on that first day. Might have been the 6 hours sleep and then the 2 hours drive to get there, and then 3 games in one day, and all that as well. But yeah, I found it super hot. But the venue itself was amazing. Thing I have to shout out for is the food. So I'm a junk food junkie. I like my junk food. Maybe if you are a health guy, you might not like it so much. But the food was amazing. It had really nice hamburgers, really nice hot dogs, and the prices were really reasonable. $5 for $5 Australian dollars for a hot dog with sauce and sauerkraut and everything. It was just really, really nice and really reasonable value. I think you could get a can of Coke for $1 something. They could have easily, if they'd wanted to, they could have tripled their prices and people would have still been forced to buy it. They would have been a bit lemon-faced, but good on them for doing that. And the ladies and guys that were working behind that thing in the heat of the day, serving everybody, that was really fantastic.
Yeah, they've they're great there, eh? Like they've got FPOS and everything there, and they're fast, they're efficient, they know what's going on. Every year we recommend, we commend those people working that stand, don't we?
Yep.
Sorry, Rex, I interrupted. Go on let's talk about the vendors now.
Yeah, so there was probably the usual amount of vendors there, and they were stocked up. Well, I think as seasoned war gamers, we're all in that situation where we've got so much stuff and so much, so many bits and pieces already stored away. Armies unpainted that we don't necessarily need to buy a lot.
Wash your mouth out.
Sorry, I've just broken the rule. I told you this podcast was going to be PG rated, and now I've just
controversial
uttered a profanity. But if you needed some more dice, or if you needed another box of guys, or you needed a gaming mat, or you needed, there was plenty there, and you could pick it up without postage, and it was really great, and everybody was friendly, and it was really great. What about you, Aaron?
Sorry, Aaron, you go.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, I think I had a hot dog on one of the days, and it was tasty, and some other food. Yeah, no, everything was there from a food point of view. It was quick and well priced. Lots of vendors. I thought, Rex pretty much summed it up really. A little bit hot.
Yeah, but you're from Queensland, so that's probably normal for you in the middle of winter.
Yeah, I probably coped better than most there, I suppose. That's true.
I'm from New Zealand. You like it cold. 18 degrees is my perfect day. 18 degrees, go to the beach.
Sydney was surrounded by a ring of fire. There was like bushfires burning all weekend and stuff like that, wasn't there? Like crazy.
Yeah, it still is. But that's pretty standard now.
Yeah,
Coming on
and
to
anyone who's
summer.
listening, who's in the way of that, or is it, worried about things as they sort of move around, we hope you're doing okay. So moving on. So I've got a question. Were the vendors a lot of resellers, or was there, and by resellers I mean quality resellers? I mean we're fortunate enough at MOAB to have awesome like distributors, even to the point of War and Peace Games rock up. Was there like the independent sort of castings of the guys doing the buildings and the MDF and that? And did we have the actual manufacturers like Eureka? Was Eureka there again this year?
Yeah, so Eureka was there. War and Peace Games was there. They had a big stand as usual. So
Yep.
guys from War and Peace were doing a roaring trade, being the distributor for all of game stuff in Australia, and a whole bunch of other things as well. Another person that was there, Dan, which I have to talk to you about. He said he'd like to come on the podcast, and that is John, ex War and Peace Games, and he was there selling sprues and other things, and that was a really interesting conversation. A really super interesting conversation. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, because I asked him about 5 years ago about whether he'd come on the podcast, and he said, no, I'm not coming on the podcast. I asked him on Sunday if he'd come on the podcast. And he said, yeah, I'd really like to, because he's got a really interesting story to tell.
Oh, wow. Well, we won't blow the cover on that, because I know you were telling me about it, and I think it's interesting, and our listeners would find it
and Aaron wasn't, and I don't think Aaron was with me in with that conversation.
No, but now I want to know.
Yeah, now you want to know. Yeah,
I'll have to wait for the episode.
This is the way we get our listening numbers up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it warmed the cockles of my heart. Let me just tell you that. Yeah, and then there was a number of other smaller guys. There was the guy. I've got the terrain, Dan. Sorry, it slipped my mind. I've got the terrain of the printed MDF. That Battlefield Accessories.
Battlefield Accessories.
Yeah. Yep. Printed MDF, and they had some beautiful MDF buildings that were like printed like as if you'd put a piece of paper in your laser printer and you print out the side of a building on it. Well, they've put a piece of MDF in their laser printer and printed out the side of a building on it. So not only is it MDF and it's cheap and it's easy to put together and stuff, but it's actually like pre-painted, but not like the dodgy painting that you've seen before. Really, really nice designs, and that was fantastic to see up front. Utherworks was there, I think they're called. Yep. Big distributor in Australia that do lots of different things. Yep. And a few other smaller guys that I don't remember the name of. Another MDF place, and another place that just was a generalist that had lots and lots of really cool things. If you wanted some pikes, some steel pikes, or some shields, or some 12 millimeter ancients, well, you could get them there.
Right. Okay, well, that sounds like a good spread, and I think we might touch on the bring and buy later. We'll go sequentially. So you turned up, like every good set of players, you probably turned up just in the nick of time, and head off to the room that it was going on in.
Well, there's actually a story about that, Dan, that you don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you know how when you fly these days,
yeah,
and you book your flight,
yeah,
and everything just goes perfectly, and your flight never gets postponed or cancelled. Isn't that right, Aaron?
Oh, yeah. No, nothing ever goes wrong when you're trying to get somewhere in a hurry. That's for sure.
Tell us the story.
Oh no, well, my flight got cancelled on Friday with about 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours out. I got a text saying, saying, "Oh, your flight's been cancelled. We'll send you your new one." And then I get another text saying, "Your new flight is flying out on Sunday, out of Brisbane to Sydney." So I thought, well, that's not going to be much good to me.
Yeah.
So I actually thought I wasn't going to be making it at the last minute, but I called them and sort of said, what's happening? What can we do about this? They said, "Oh, we've found you a new flight. It's all good. It's on Sunday." I said, "I know. I've got a text, but Sunday's not going to help me. I'll be coming back not long after that." So yes, they were able to put me on a flight that left the last flight out of Brisbane on Friday night, which was only 2 flights later, and that was the last seat that Virgin had from their 2 final flights of the day. And I got to the airport. I thought I sigh of relief, and I hear over the loudspeaker, your flight's been delayed. And then it got delayed another 2 times, and I thought, oh no, they're going to cancel it, and I'm not going to be going. But sure enough, it flew, and I made it. You
didn't have to go via Fiji, like Brisbane to Fiji to Sydney.
Oof.
Well, the funny thing is, for those of you, it's embarrassing for people who live in Sydney, right? Sydney's is Australia's capital city, right?
everyone, people around the world are yelling, "What are you asking this rhetorical question for?" But tell us the answer is.
So Canberra is Australia's capital city, but Sydney is the biggest city in Australia, right? So we are the metropolitan hub of the entire country, and our airport closes at like 11 p.m. or something and doesn't open again until 7 a.m. Our international airport. It's crazy. Yeah. But what happens is if you get on in Brisbane and if there's a problem, they'll just go, well, sorry, Sydney's closed. We're going to fly you to Canberra or Melbourne. Literally, that's what they do. And then you have to spend the night sitting in a seat in Melbourne and then fly back to Sydney the next day, maybe.
Oh.
So you did well.
Well, thank goodness you made it, mate. Well done. Good negotiating skills.
So,
touch and go.
I was good. I arrived. I got up at 6 a.m. and I blasted down the motorway, and I got there in time for a bacon and egg roll for breakfast from the canteen. So
good job.
I was
well
on
done.
Time. Well, yeah.
So we got there on time. Thank goodness. Hopefully fed and watered. So let's talk about the setup, the tournament organisers. Tell us about that. How was it looking? Was it good to go? Everybody ready for the kickoff?
Yeah, it was great. The guys had been in on Friday, set everything up. So I think it was a few latecomers that were rolling in, setting up terrain that they owned because there was 37 people at the tournament. So that's a fair amount of tables. And so there's a few people rolling in and setting up terrain, but the majority of it was all set up, all ready to go. And I think we kicked off pretty much exactly right on time.
And your TOs are Ian and Adrian again, weren't they?
Yep, Ian and Adrian, same as last year at MOAB. They did such a good job last year. And I think the fact that there was 2 TOs just made a huge difference because the previous year I went, there was one guy. And I think it's just too much. You got 3 or 4 people coming over to you all at once. It's just too hard to handle all those queries. But when there's 2, you can split them out, and one guy can go and get a drink or go to the toilet or whatever, and the whole thing doesn't fall to bits. So it was really great, really well organized. All the tables had numbers on them, and we were using an app, Best Coast Pairing, I think it was called.
Yep.
Which was the same one we used last year, and we just pre-registered on that, and generally that just worked perfectly.
Great.
Yeah, no, they run a really tight ship, and they've been doing a great job the last 2 MOABs. So I think community's very, very fortunate to have Ian and Adrian running stuff, so and fantastic painters and terrain makers themselves as well. So that always means you're going to be playing on good tables. Yeah.
Good. Well, I suppose the format is 3 games on the first day and then 2 games on the second day. So if we start thinking about the games then, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little about your first game? Who was your opponent? What sort of army did they have? And what was his scenario? Or before we start, actually, so is everybody playing the same scenario at the same time, or is this table set up for different scenarios? Or
I can answer that. So we were playing the new Bolt Action Alliance scenarios that the Bolt Action Alliance guys have made up, and that was really interesting, and they were really good scenarios actually. Well, I thought they were, and so everybody was playing the first scenario on whatever table they happened to be on, and then next round everybody was playing the second scenario that was just in the list that was put out in the thing. Before we get too far into the games, Dan, So Saturday was a long time away. Maybe we just give the brief about the three first games or whatever we want, and I'll go into detail about my favourite games, which were the 2 games that I had on Sunday, because they were the shockers where everything went right and then everything went wrong. Otherwise, people might fall asleep if we go into detail with every single game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe just who you played, if you can remember the names of your awesome opponents, and what army they were playing, and what mission you played, and then we'll go backwards and forwards about that. Just a real brief sort of overview, and then we can move into the second day after I quiz you on what was your highlights of that first day. So, Aaron, would you like to talk a bit about your first game?
Yeah, for sure. Day one, I think first game I had, I think we were playing Window of Opportunity. I think there was a little bit of confusion on some of the tables. People were sure whether we were playing them in order of how they were laid out in the Bolt Action Alliance pack, or the order of how there was like on one of the pages just prior, there was all 5 missions in order, but I'm not sure if everyone saw that, because I think in the packet said they would be randomly rolled. So I'm not sure if everyone was playing the exact same mission at the same time, but I think on day 2 that they definitely were. But Window of Opportunity, I think it was the first one. And Russell Barron I was playing. He had a Polish Paras, actually, which is this. Yeah. So it's the same. They use the same selector as the British paratroop. It's a combined one there, but obviously using that making that fit into the derp selector. But yeah, he was playing Polish Paras, and he had lots and lots of squads. I think he maxed out squads, all 8-man vets, very strong. Hard to remove. I think he had a artillery piece, a couple of MMG jeeps, mortars and sniper, all the sort of support pieces as well to go along with it. No tanks, but he had those recce jeeps, the airborne recce jeeps. He had a couple of those.
They're your favorite, mate. You would have known how to play against those.
Yeah. No, well, they're handy little jeeps, but that was kind of his list, and I think there was a lot of objectives. So yeah, it was kind of hard to. Actually, it was Thin Red Line. I think it was actually not.
Yeah, we played Thin Red Line, which is the one. For those of you who don't know, is where you have a thin red line. I guess you could probably describe it as across the middle of the field with 3 or 4 objectives. I'm just turning to it now, and then a couple of objectives. One sticks slightly into one player's side, and the other one sticks slightly into the other player's side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 objectives, and basically they're right on the center line of the table.
Okay, cool.
So there's so much going on that it's a bit of a crazy scenario, but good.
Yeah, good. And without spoiling it with your results, because we're going to keep our listeners hanging on, I think here till we sort of reach the culmination of this tournament. So good game. Close. Was it a close one?
Yeah, well, so I think we played through to 6 turns, and the first 5 turns, not a lot of units had perished. I think we may have taken a dice or 2 off each other at most.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was really, really tight right down to turn 6, and then sort of everything sort of just fell my way. He lost a couple, and it was just sort of a bit of an avalanche all in the last turn. But those veteran 8-man squads of Paras, there's a couple on objectives, and they're very, very, very hard to shift once they get there. Really hard to remove when they're just going down, and with the stubborn and stuff. I think one of them had like 6 pins on it. Still like 4 or 5 men left, and I just couldn't shake them. So yeah, it was bit of a slow burn, and then in the last turn, everything sort of just happened. And sometimes you lose a couple, and then everything just starts falling away. So it was a bit like that. But the first 5 turns, it was really, really neck and neck. I think game 2 I had Isaac with some Soviets.
Right.
Quite a similar list to mine, actually. So that was interesting. We had same amount of units, a lot of similar units. So it wasn't quite a mirror match, but it was pretty close to it. Yep. And that was, I won't go into detail on all of them, but that was a bit of a funny one. I think we were playing shifting objectives, which is where you've each got two objectives, one in the middle, and you roll to place who places first. You place them alternatively.
Right, okay. Yep.
Pick your side, and then you roll again, and someone can shift any of the objectives up to 6 inches wherever they want. And then the other player does the same. So I won the roll off. I chose to shift the middle objective a bit towards the right because my plan was to sort of head towards the right where all three objectives were, and then the two on the far side, I didn't have a plan for them, but I was going to work that out later. But I wanted to go for those three on the right, and I shifted the middle one across, and then he shifted it straight back to where I just moved it from. So we didn't actually shift any of the objectives, contrary to the name. But it was a funny one. And then we both had I think it was 4 or 5. I had 5 units outflanking on the right side, and he had 6. So we were playing that game.
Wow. Okay.
I've never seen that before. I've never played anyone who did that before.
So I think it was the only game I outflanked out of the 5. And it just so happened to be that he did it on the same side. And I actually thought he was going to go the other side because there was a road at the halfway point on the board. Okay. And I thought, and the road drove straight towards the 2 objectives on that side. So I thought straight away he was going to be outflanking on that side. So I was quite surprised when he was flanking on the same side as me. And as you can imagine, that turn 4 and 5, it was chaotic. We had units coming on, then another unit coming behind it, then another one coming behind that, and it was just like a stacks on, on the rugby field, and everyone's just stacking on top of each other. It was like that.
It's a big rolling mall.
Rolling mall, exactly. That's hopefully everyone's getting a picture of what that looked like. But it was pretty funny.
What table was that on?
It was on the jungle board.
Like? All right, okay.
Yeah. So I think there was 2 jungle boards. One was really dense, and the other one wasn't as dense. We were on the really dense one. Yep. So lots of line of sight blocking, but a lot of those bamboo buildings, and it was quite an interesting affair. But yes, on that right hand side, it was mayhem.
I'm visualizing that as the board that you played on last year, Rex. Is that the one?
It is, but it was reconfigured. Yeah. So big. I'm assuming. So the one right near. Obviously, this is not going to make any sense to people that are listening to the podcast, but it was one right near the prize table.
Yes.
Yep. So it had big blocks, like 12-inch kind of blocks of super heavy terrain, but instead of them all being concertinaed together, they were spread out a little bit more than it was last year over the entire table. From memory, I didn't play on it, and it had a really cool, like I don't know, Buddha kind of brass temple
shrine
thing in the middle. Yeah, shrine in the middle. It was obviously an ornament that somebody had got off something, probably bought at a car boot sale or a garage sale or whatever, and put it in the middle of the table. It was really great. Yeah. How did you play? Did you have bamboo buildings that were up off the ground by an inch?
We did.
How did you play the cover for those?
Yes. So we ended up playing, I think half of them were on stilts and the other half the buildings were ground level. The ones that were on stilts, we played, if you were a man-sized model or smaller, you could see underneath it. But it was counted as soft cover. Yeah. And that was pretty much how we ruled it.
That's how I played my jungle board as well. But when you look at that board, you've got all those buildings on there. And then when you apply that rule to it, in some ways, there's not a lot of cover there because you can see under quite a few of the buildings, and it can be deceptive.
Yeah, I got caught out a couple of times by that. I forgot. And I'd, recce to carrier behind the building. and then forgot that he could see straight underneath it from the other side, and put it in a bit of a spot of bother. Kept getting caught out, and he had an autocannon on ambush that was looking straight at it. So out of the fire into the furnace.
Yeah. So maybe I'll go on to my first game then, because I also played Craig with that army on my first game.
All right.
So shall I do that, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I played Craig with his Soviets against my Soviets on a jungle table. Not the same one, but a different one. There's a lot of similarities there. Lots of Soviets going around, lots of jungle tables going around.
Yeah.
And he had 2 autocannons on rotating table things.
Yep.
Because I remember one time I said, I'm outside your arc. He said, oh, no, it's on a table. I'm like, oh, of course it is. Like, look at it. You can see it's on a turntable. So I played him as well. And, I wouldn't say it was a close game. It was a fun game. I'm going to give my results away as we go, okay? So he beat me. I got badly beaten by a rule that I didn't know. Here you go. I've been playing Bolt Action for a while, and this rule I had never, ever read.
Oh, what's that?
The situation is that I put... So one of our objectives ended up being in a building. And you know the whole thing of never going to building in Bolt Action version 2, right? But
right.
I thought, well, he doesn't have any tanks. He had a Katusha, but he didn't have any tanks. I thought, okay, I'll go in this building. The building's in cover from one of his rotating autocannons, and I'll put 2 units in there. And I've got 2 units on the objective, and I'll be fine. This is later on in the game. And so you already know what's going to happen. It wasn't fine, was it?
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
It'll be fine, but it wasn't. But what happened was he shot with his autocannon at my building, direct HE. Now I have never. I had to call the TO over because I just couldn't believe it. I wasn't cranky with him or anything, but I just couldn't believe that I just had completely never experienced or read this rule before, because I thought that, well, firstly, the building that he was shooting at was just silhouetted, if you imagine like a small building in front of a large building, but you're down low. So all you can see is and I'm doing the hand actions here, which is less helpful for those people listening on the podcast. But around the outside of the small building, you could just see, half an inch of big building there, right? So obviously he couldn't shoot me directly, obviously, but he did.
Yes.
And so obviously he would need to use indirect, which meant that you had to, and it was a 3-story building. So it meant you had to, first you had to hit, and then you had to roll, first story, second story, and all that. So I had 2 squads in. I thought, I think I'll be okay. I don't think he's big enough to bring the building down. I didn't do the maths on it, but he just shot that building indirect, even though he could barely see it. That's just the way the rule works. Sometimes the rules seem a bit wacky. Shot me indirect, couldn't see me at all. He could only, even if the building wasn't there, there's just no possible way he could see me. But he could see the building, therefore he could shoot it, and it wasn't indirect. So he just targeted me, and I just evaporated. Oh man, I was cranky with myself, because I thought I was actually doing okay, and I'd primed myself up like, I'm gonna do well at this. I can see how it's evolving, but no, it did not evolve how I thought. But I got my own back at one point. I had an assault. I was only assaulting 2 guys, but I was assaulting with a 7-man, I think, at that stage, rifle squad, still inexperienced, and I assaulting him behind an obstacle, and I just rolled. Everything was 6s except 1 dice or something, and it was just glorious. I just wiped him out. And I think he was a veteran, and just wiped him out. I just loved it.
Did you take those dice into the toilet and try to flush them down the toilet so no one could see if they were loaded or not?
No. Is there something I should know about, Dan, that you're not telling me?
Did you hear about this, Aaron?
No.
Some guy at a grand tournament.
For real? I thought you were joking.
I think it was in the States, and his dice rolling hot, and somebody said to him, can I check these dice? And they were talking about all these scientific ways to check these dice. This guy just goes, no, look, if you're that concerned about it, I concede. You can have the game. Made this other guy seem like he was a real, I don't know, dice spotter or something. And then went to the toilet like in a huff, and then someone else went to the toilet afterwards and found these dice that had been tried to be flushed, but at the bottom of the toilet pan sitting there because they were loaded.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic.
No, I did not. I did not flush my dice down the toilet. No, my dice were genuine. I know that because the rest of the time they all rolled bad. But it was a good game with Isaac. He played really well. He really knew his rules. At the end, he did sort of say, "Yeah, I did pretty well at CanCon last year or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, well, so you are a lot better player than me." And I had a fantastic game. It was really fun. I learned a rule that I will not forget in a hurry.
Yeah, you won't forget that one in a hurry. It happens.
But that was a pretty comprehensive win to him on that. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
All right, I just thought I'd interject there because we both fought the same guy. So he went on with you because he'd beaten me at that stage.
No. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, you go, Aaron. Go for it.
Oh, yeah, we ended up. It was a pretty close game between Isaac and I, but it came down to the last turn. A couple of failed order tests coming on with units on that right side and outflank, and
the rolling maul.
Yeah, the rolling maul. Who are the guys that are at the very back of the scrum? Was that the halfback or the lock or something?
Well, I don't know who.
Sorry, I don't follow tennis.
Back of the scrum.
Those guys didn't come on. They were still off table even at the end of the game. We kept failing order tests with that stuff. So there was a couple of stragglers that didn't make it on.
This sounds like a metaphor for both the Australian rugby team and the World Cup at the moment. and also several of New Zealand's rugby games recently. So half their players didn't turn up, and there was some coaching and command issues there.
Yeah, really? Yeah, we definitely had a bit of that. Half our armies didn't turn up by the end of the game. I think we both failed a good 3 or 4 tests turns in a row. But
there's one of these scenarios where you don't have a -1 when you come on, but if you come on from the flank, there's a -2. That's brutal.
Yeah, outflank. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to you, Aaron, how did your game 3 go? So final game of day 1.
Yeah. So I think there was. I think there might have been quite a few sitting on 2 wins, and I ended up with Adam Burke, who I've never had the pleasure of playing before, although we probably come close to playing at a couple of events in the past, probably even MOAB last year, actually. But he had a beautiful early war German list, which was gorgeous, and he had a couple of vehicles that I hadn't seen used before, which I liked seeing on the table. He had, the open-topped Jaeger ones, the medium anti-tank gun. Pretty cost-effective for the role that it fills. I think they're only 125 or something points, but beautiful little tank, nice low profile, and packs a bit of punch on it. And then he had I think it was the Panzer 1 with the machine guns. I think they're fairly common with the early war choice. I'd just never seen one before, but I know they're obviously pretty common. There's probably a lot of people going, "Oh, Panzer 1, I've played heaps of Panzer 1s. I've played guys that have had 6 Panzer 1s before." But no, I'd never seen one. But yeah, he lots of squads, medium howitzer, light AT gun, that sort of thing. And we were playing pincer maneuver. And there was a lot of talk about pincer maneuver. There was a huddle before we kicked off round 3. I think we had a bit of a break for lunch, a fair bit of time. There was about 7 or 8 guys all talking about pincer maneuver mission, which is a attacker and defender scenario. You've sort of got, it's interesting deployment actually. bit unorthodox from all the other missions. The attacker deploys 18 inches from both his corners.
Right. Yep.
So it's not like along his back line. He can deploy a little blob circle sort of coming out 18 inches from his left corner and from his right corner.
Right.
And then the defender deploys 18 inches from the center of his board edge. So he sort of fans out in a little blob from the center.
Yep.
So he's kind of tightly
castles up there.
Yeah, castled up there. And we played on a beautiful Italian board. But the funny thing with this one was, in the middle of the board where the 3 objectives are, they all sort of go down, not the center line,
from
sort of
long table edge.
Long table edge, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
The center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've sort of got 1 and 12 inches away from you, one in the center and 12 inches away from the opponent's board edge. But yeah, bit of an interesting board. All in the middle was extremely open. There was sort of massive hill to the left, massive hill on his side, massive hill on my side, little town road off to the left. But in the middle where these 3 objectives was 0 cover, none whatsoever at all. Anywhere, probably I think the nearest cover it would have been at least 8 inches from any of the objectives. So it was an interesting one. It was the objectives sort of all were down the middle of it in a valley. But everyone was trying to decide whether it was better to be the attacker or defender. And of course, being new missions, no one had ever played them before. Yeah. I lost the roll-off. I didn't get to choose. I was thinking about... I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know whether I wanted to be attacker or defender. I couldn't work it out. I didn't actually have a plan with this one. I thought, I'll just let the dice decide. But he chose to be the attacker. And I had to defend, which was not ideal, I think, in the end, because as I'm starting to put stuff down, I'm like, there's no cover here. I'm in the valley, which made things interesting.
You were in the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah. How many units did you deploy up front?
So I think it had to be half. Was it?
Was it up to half?
Was it up to half or all of them? I can't remember now.
Up to half.
Up to half, yeah. So I chose to go with half, and I sort of just loaded up on the hill on my side, my artillery piece, and tried to hide the mortar around the back. And I'd put my Inex squads basically on the objectives on my side, because as a defender, you're already on top of one objective, and then you're almost at the middle one anyway. Yeah. So my Inex squads, their job was just to get on them and just go down for the rest of the game and hopefully see it out. They copped a bit of attention, but they were both able to sort of hold those. Got a couple of early dice from some units. I got super lucky. I think the turning point in the game was, how someone drives their truck full of engineers, and you're like, well, I've got nothing else to shoot at. I'm just going to try and range in on the truck with a mortar and see if I can get lucky. And sure enough, the 6 come up, and I think that was sort of the turning point of the game there. So
1 in 6 times, it happens every time.
Yeah, that's it. And obviously that squad was probably the biggest threat to taking the objective in the middle as well. So probably put a bit of a dent in Adam's plans, but it was just a bit of a Hail Mary and let it come up.
Yeah, good. That's it's nothing better when your mortar fire controller manages to sort that one out and actually rolls that 6.
I always think shooting a mortar at a truck that's driving on a battlefield probably wouldn't be an easy task.
No.
Trying to range in on a moving vehicle.
No.
Yeah. It was marked and measured, or whatever it is. What do they say, Dan?
Recorded, yep.
That's it. Yeah. Those army guys.
Yeah.
Don't know what that means.
The beaten zone and the effective zone of the actual explosion to get you. You'd probably be lucky to actually hit the vehicle, but the shrapnel would do for you probably.
Yep, soft skin.
All right. Well, that sounds like that was a really exciting one for you, Rex. Did you play the same mission? And what table were you on?
So you've heard about my game one, my game two now. Now this was really scary because when the draw came up, you know how sometimes you see your name. You know, my name's Withers, last name Withers. So sometimes it's Rex Withers, sometimes it's Withers Rex.
I know
Right?
what you're going to say because I thought
Yeah,
this too.
yeah. So anyway, it comes up. I've got a screenshot of this. It comes up for the draw, and it's Rex Withers on table 14 against Russell Aaron. So that's obviously Aaron Russell, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, I might as well just turn in my dice now. This is not going to go well. But and I couldn't work out why I was playing you at this point in the tournament. But it ended up actually being Russell, and I'm not sure Russell Aaron. It's got a weird thing where there's a little ellipsis in the middle, so I'm not quite sure. It must be missing a character. But Russell was the guy's name, and in fact, it wasn't you. So I was pleased about that. Not that I don't like you. You're not a nice guy, but yeah, I didn't want to get crushed this early in the tournament.
I think that was the same gentleman that I played in the first game, Russell Barron.
Oh, Barron. Okay.
Did he have Polish paratroopers?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Oh no, sorry, no. He had this guy had, and I've lost my notes, but I think he had British, Polish paras. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he had Polish paras, and they were hard too.
I was sitting there, and I actually saw your Twitter post of the names, and I was going, what? What? Rex told me he lost, and then I was like, nah, there must be just some characters missing at the start of the name there. That's not Aaron.
Yeah.
So I did work it out, but it did take me by surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. So I played Russell. We had a great game. He had, as we already discussed, where he had Polish paras, which were akin to British paras, and yeah, they were tough boys for sure. And I had a really good game actually. I did all the right things and I made all the right moves and I deployed in all the exact places. So for those of you who haven't been listening before, and maybe Aaron, you're not aware either, I'm not a super competitive player. I'm a guy that loves the game. I don't care if I win or lose. I love my hobby. I love building terrain. I love podcasting. I love talking smack about games, but I'm not a super competitive guy. So one of the things I wanted to do this time was actually do a little bit better at my competitive thing. I wanted to rise up the top a little bit. So I've done a fair bit of practice. I've ran through most of these scenarios once, and I've been playing with Ian and Ian at the down at my wargaming Wednesday nights, and I've improved my game to the point where I'm playing faster, I'm making better decisions, I'm seeing things more moves ahead, and just generally a better player than what I was.
Oh, that's good.
A little better, but yeah. So I was really happy. I was doing well. I brought some guys on and outflank, and they came on and they flamed a SWAT, and then I ran forward and I did this, and I run my truck up the road, and I just wiped out some guys, and the indirects just going off, and then towards the end of the game, I made 2 mistakes, and those 2 mistakes cost me the game. And that was I just saw something and I didn't. When the first dice comes out or your dice comes out, you look at it and you go, okay, what's the most important thing for me to do right now? Because you can move that guy or take that indirect shot or whatever, but shoot that tank that's already acted. But it's irrelevant, most of the time, because you can do that anytime. But there's always that 1 or 2 things that you should do first.
Yep.
And I moved some guys and I finished moving them and I just went, that was the dumbest thing you've ever done. I don't understand why you did that. And so just for a couple of dice that went against me as well, and a couple of silly decisions, I ended up losing that one. But I had a fantastic game, and I was really, really happy that I'm starting to be able to think ahead. Think like a chess player. Right. So if I move this there, and he's going to move this there, it's 3 turns till the end of the game. I need to move here. I can get this 12 inches, and then I'm on the objective, and blah blah blah. So I was real happy with the game, and we had fun, and we enjoyed it. Well, I hope Russell did, but I certainly did. So that was my game too, and that was on a desert board, a weird desert board that had hills in 3 corners and a city in the middle, and just the way the objectives worked out, it was quite a tricky little game. Lots of objectives to try and fight over, and only limited amount of resources. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that your practice is paying off and that you are enjoying your game more, and because you got some vision of the game going ahead. That's good.
Yeah.
More enjoyable.
The other thing that I've done is I've reduced the size of my army a little bit as well, because playing, with those Soviet armies that has lots and lots of guys. I don't know. Have you played, Aaron, the spam army before?
With Soviets?
Well, with anybody, but Soviets, I know is your thing.
I've played against. I haven't spammed a lot of infantry. Usually sort of gone for mixed. I played against a couple of bamboo, like 6 full squads of bamboo spear fighters before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I found was that when I went for a slightly more elite army, so just less units, which actually this selector kind of guided you towards anyway, but regardless, I would have gone that way. Just less to think about, less dice to pull. I know that obviously that gives you a superiority in terms of numbers, in terms of dice in the bag, but in terms of enjoyment, I enjoyed playing with less dice than I did last time. Less to think about, seemed more like fun, less like work. So
that's good. Good, because you need to have an army that suits your playing style, or that you can adapt your playing style to. So that's good.
Yeah.
So your last game of the day, Rex?
Last game of the day. Yep. I was fighting Billy, and Billy had I think it was Soviets as well. Again, I haven't done a great job of taking notes, but it must have been because he had Soviet cavalry. Right, so I've just been playing around with German cavalry for my new Waffen SS army, and took those to the club a couple of times, and just got slaughtered. And I'm like, okay, well, you're playing Soviet cavalry. I'll be very interested to see how you play this, because I wasn't able to really get anything out of it, at least in the couple of games that I played. And it was very interesting. But we were quite well matched. By game 3, you're starting to come to, better or worse in terms of matching with the Swiss system. And we had a really good game. This was the third game, which was pincer movement. And I had played this before, Aaron, one time as a practice, and we had a big debate about it as well then.
Yeah.
And I decided that because I have quite a lot of indirect, I didn't want to be right in the middle deploying. I wanted to get my indirect on the table straight up, and I didn't want it to be all sitting in the middle, right next to the objective where all the guys were going to be assaulting my soft skins and what have you.
Because you were on the winter board, weren't you?
Yeah, so I was on this winter board, which had a big road that ran through the middle, and we had a little bit similar to yours. We had more cover than what you had by the sounds of things. But yeah, these 3 objectives were kind of out there a little bit. At least the center one was right out there. So I can't remember who won the roll-off, but anyway, I must have won the roll-off, and I ended up being the attacker. So I got the 2 outside corners because I wanted to put my indirect out there, so I had good field of fire with its arc turned at 45 degrees. Spotters in the middle. I hardly deployed anything else on the table because I wanted to just wait and see what he would do, because you've got such a short distance to run to get to the objectives. I didn't really want to just stay out there and just die. So I held back. But anyway, went to and fro, and it was pretty exciting there. And then in the end, it ended up being a draw. So we had just guys clustered around. I had one objective, he had the other. Neither of us could kind of get to it. My objective on my side was screened a little bit with a ring of Soviet bodies. His objective on the other side, I hadn't really acted quite quick enough, and I couldn't get to it. The center one was just bogged down with 6 squads all around it, 6 or 7 squads all around it, just rummaging around, just bayoneting each other and everything. So that was a great end to the day to have a good game like that was really, really balanced.
Question for you, Rex. After having played that one now, and after doing a bit of practice, and everyone's sort of trying to work out what's the most advantageous starting position, do you think you'd go attacker or defender if you had to play it again?
I think it depends on the army. I think it depends on what army you've got. If you've got if you've got a lot of indirect or a lot of long range weapons, like that you want out on those corners that are just going to sit there the whole game, they're going to be protected because nobody's ever going to come near them except the enemies indirect. I think that's a good choice to be the attacker, because you can get them on. You can get them start ranging in from turn 1. So 6-turn game. Hopefully by turn 6, surely if somebody hasn't moved, at least you're getting some sort of damage in there. But I think there's a lot of merit to actually just putting on the minimum, regardless of which side you're on, and especially if you're the attacker, because if you're the attacker and you put on the minimum, as far as we read it anyway, I hope I'm right, when you actually come on, so after the first turn, after the reserve and all that, you can actually come on anywhere on your table edge, I believe. Hopefully that's right.
Yeah, no, you're right, yep. So you think it just funnel everything up the middle? Yeah.
So regardless, I don't think there's any disadvantage to being out on those edges, because you just leave everything in reserve and just bring it on first turn. It stops it getting shot first turn as well.
Aaron, how about you? Would you what do you think's most advantageous, or would you do it differently next time?
No, I actually think Rex is right. Yeah, after having played it, I mean, I've only played it once, but I think he's right, and I think maybe it could sometimes depend on the board as well. Like if those sort of 3 objectives are in a well defended position, or have a lot of cover around it or something, that you could sort of deploy in and protect, then maybe choosing defender is probably the way to go. Or because I think the attacker comes in on those 2 corners, so if he has to cross lots of rough ground, there's not a lot of access and all that kind of stuff, maybe defender could be advantageous. So, I reckon it's probably might come down to, as Rex said, the army, what you've got, what they've got, and then how mobile you might be, and then the board as well. What terrain might be around. And
it's probably a good sign that if you guys can't come up with a definitive answer, and you're thinking about all these things that you have to factor in, that it's made a tactical decision, then it's a good sign that Brad's investment of time he made into and his play testing into those scenarios, that one's really, really worked.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well done, Brad, and whoever the rest of the guys are that are in those, they're in the Bolt Action Alliance. By the way, while I think of it, I'll put a link to it up on our website, so that for those of you who haven't seen it, you can go and download that scenario pack. It's free, obviously. Great resource made available by those guys. Replaces the old one that was a few years old. I think a great resource, at least to look at from as your TO, looking to run an event. There's 2 extra scenarios as well, which were, I don't remember what, but they're in a different color, and I haven't read them because I haven't had time. So I think there's 6 scenarios in total. No, there must be 7 scenarios in total.
Yeah, great work, Brad. We'll put it up there. All right, guys, so you're retired for the evening. Hopefully you grabbed some food, some water, refueled, did you, and have a good night's sleep?
Struggled to get to bed. I don't think I got to sleep till like nearly 1 o'clock. I was very tired.
After that long journey, I thought you would have jumped into bed like a scorched koala at an all-night burns clinic or something.
I thought I was going to as well, because I was pretty tired. After 3 games, you're mentally a little bit exhausted, and I was definitely tired when I got home. I think the brain was just still ticking, I think, for some reason. But I struggled to get to bed, maybe in an unfamiliar space as well. But
you were just worried in case it was Rex that you got drilled against in the Best Coast pairings, when you're just like, phew, you're breathing a sigh of relief.
He texted me and said, "I've got you straight up in the morning." And I thought, no, they didn't. They didn't happen.
And Rex,
by this stage, we're starting to get towards a little bit either side of the middle. Let's just say that.
Yeah. All right then, Rex. I know you visited our favourite place for to get some food and everything.
Yep.
So I know you had a good night's sleep.
Yep. I got 2 pizzas, Dan, just like you taught me, with swirls. One for dinner, one for breakfast.
Barbecue sauce swirls for you Australians.
Yep.
We get it here. They'll do it. You got to ask for it though.
Yep. And I drank about 2 liters, drank about 3 liters of water.
Oh, good.
Yep, it was
good.
hot.
Yeah, man. Rehydrate. Yeah. So next morning, back in there again. Should we talk about the games first, and we can talk about some other stuff around around other stuff you guys did? So game 4, Aaron, we'll go back to you, I think. In fact, let's do both your games, game 4
and 5. Yep. So I had game 4. I was on a snowboard, and was playing Mark Mascot. We haven't played before. I don't believe so, but he had a LRDG, beautifully painted LRDG.
I saw pictures of that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was
chipped
really well themed,
everything, wasn't it?
Yep, really good chipped vehicles. He had his little blurb of details around his force and the theme and theatre as well. But LRDG, and was using the LRDG selector as well. So they have some interesting rules. So they change all the British characteristics and get their own that mainly affect their vehicles. These LRDG gun trucks and Jeeps and recce vehicles, they're allowed to
tires and stuff like that. And
that's the one. Yep. The deflating the tires, and I can't remember the name of the rule, but there's one where the gun trucks can advance up, shoot, and then recce away still by passing an order test, which is obviously really annoying to deal with.
I think those are some rules that I think the writer for the West Desert book got initially from Sam from the Down Order podcast. I think Sam and Dave worked those rules out over a number of games from the Down Order podcast, and then the writer sort of consulted them and maybe worked to them a little bit more. So it's interesting origins for those good rules.
Oh, wow. That is interesting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, they're definitely flavoursome. The rules are definitely flavoursome. I think they need to pass a order test to be able to then retreat. And they can. This is probably the most obvious rule as far as what Mark was building a strategy around, was the vehicles can outflank from turn 2 onwards instead of turn 3, and they can do it from the halfway point. So nothing is safe early on. So I was a bit concerned about that, actually. And there was a bunch of things in outflank and vehicles on outflank, and I think in the end one came in on one side and then the rest came in on the other side. And I had my autocannon sitting in ambush for like 3 turns waiting for these trucks to all pile on, and he did the smart thing of trying to bait a shot by bringing on an empty transport on that side. And he's like, "You're going to shoot the empty transport?" I'm like, I know this gun truck with 20 machine guns is about to come on after it. If I shoot at the transport truck, then I'm probably going to lose my autocannon. But if I don't shoot at it, then the truck's going to get a free shot at me, and I'm not going to be down. So it was a hard decision. In the end, I decided to shoot the transport truck, which is I think what he was setting me up for. But I I knew my fate and I chose it anyway. But yeah, then the
Yeah,
gun truck
yeah.
come on and blasted a whole heap of troops, and yeah, it was an interesting one. But I think the challenge he had was that he only had 3 squads of SAS veterans.
Yep.
And there was 4 objectives.
Right. Yep.
And vehicles couldn't contest, so he just did make it hard to take 4 objectives with only 3 squads. And I got a lucky hit on turn 2 with a heavy mortar on one of the squads, so he was reduced to 2 squads by turn 3, which basically made it impossible for him to capture 4 objectives with only 2 squads. So it was just a bit of a difficult one, but it was a really good game. Great guy to play as well. Fantastic force. And then in the last game was Jump to Action, which is probably one of my favourite missions out of the 5, I think. But by this point, foggy. I think it happens to everyone, but 5 games, second day, you're sort of a bit foggy, making mistakes.
And you've been doing planes, trains, and automobiles, trying to just get to the event from Brisbane.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. But we had a good game. Played Sean. He had a German force as well. Really nice guy. Great to play. We had a lot of fun. A few things didn't go his way early, and I think he went defender. In this one, I think the defender has a distinct disadvantage as opposed to pincer maneuver was what I found, but it could have been potentially a bit of the board as well. But I think just sort of deploying first and having some Inex mortars and Inex Nebelwerfers and that kind of thing, it was easy for me to sort of then deploy my force in a way that I was minimizing what the Nebel would do, but still setting myself up so I could take it out, I guess, before it could do maximum damage. Because I had 2 buildings sitting in my quarter, and I think that's what the Nebel was trying to capitalize on, which was definitely the right player on his part. But we had a good game, lots of fun, and really really good guy. So was able to get wins in both of those games as well. So to round out that second day.
Oh, good. Well, that day went well for you. Rex, how did your day 2 go?
Yeah, day 2, always the best day for me. I'm always, you're playing opponents by that stage that are, said it a million times before, that are at your level. So whether you're good or not good or in the middle, you're playing someone that's roughly on your level. So always get the most, out of those last 2 games. And, I'm in a bit of a groove. Then I played 3 games. Weirdly, this time I didn't have that day 2 game 5 burnout. I was good the whole time. I could have played a couple of extra games. I think that's just because of I've been playing more Bolt Action this year. Yep. My 52 games of Bolt Action goal for this year, as we discussed in the last podcast, has not materialized yet. But I still play a lot more than I have any other year. So game 4, I played Theo. Now, this was a particularly weird one, almost a grudge match, because, Dan, if you remember the very first time we went to MOAB years ago, before COVID, when it was all in black and white, my first game, I took Fallschirmjäger. My first game, I faced some dirty Soviets with Katyushas and just crazy stuff.
Actually, I remember that. Did the guy have a beard or something? I can't remember, but I can specifically remember his army. I think he might have had some Soviet naval infantry and stuff. And
he
did. Have a Katyusha or something like that as well? Yeah,
he had a Katyusha. Yep. So and the Katyusha just crushed me. Yeah, he's a really really nice guy to play. So Theo comes along this year and he brings Fallschirmjäger.
Right.
And I bring Soviets right. with the Katyusha. So it's a role reversal from 5 years ago or something. And so it was a really fantastic game, really enjoyable game. It was a real puzzler. just with where the objectives were, and there was lots of terrain, and there was a river that we decided to play impassable, and there was 2 bridges over the river. So I was a real puzzler, but I think I did well with it, and I sort of, again, with me sort of improving a little bit, I was able to go, okay, these guys are going to outflank. This is going to happen here. This is going to happen here, and it just happened exactly as I had planned. A couple of little gotchas, but towards the end of the game, I managed to shield off one objective that was in danger. My tank stayed alive and just machine gunned everybody. Did some fantastic work with the assault engineer squad and flaming up people and jumping on objectives and shielding things, and yeah, nice. came out really good. So that was a win for me, and but probably my second favorite game of the tournament, because we just had heaps of fun, and it was a real puzzler. But I was able to kind of work that through. And the Nebelwerfer, sorry, not the Nebelwerfer, the Katusha just did work. It worked this time.
Yeah,
a couple of times actually it has, but yeah, it just kept rolling 6s and putting pins on, and yeah, really did well. Did your Katusha work, Aaron?
It didn't actually. I think I killed a anti-tank, a hunters team, like a little 2-man. Small team that Isaac had. I hit a transport truck, but it was empty. And I think that was about it. So it didn't really go off. I did find, I don't know if you found this problem, and this is my main challenge whenever I've used multi-launchers in the past, is that with the objectives and when they're all in the middle, as soon as you get sort of close to them and the enemy is, you can't really fire them anyway because your troops are too close. So, and you end up having to target like the sole light howitzer down the back or a spotter or something, because it's the only thing that the enemy has that isn't close to your stuff. So I kept finding myself in that position all the time, and probably because I had a scout squad as well. So they're forward deploying and they're already up there, and I'm trying to use the Katusha and
targets.
Yeah. So maybe
that's interesting. Actually, Dan told me, we were talking about my list, and I was saying, because I think either they were or they did allow 2 MMGs. I don't know if they revised that. I think they left it as 2 MMGs. And so I was like, 2 MMGs. I love MMGs. I'm going to take 2 MMGs. I know people don't say they're very competitive, but I love them. It's probably why I never win tournaments. But anyway, and Dan says to me, I quote, he says, 0 is the amount of MMGs that you should be taking with your arm. and he went on to talk about placement and gun lines and all sorts of other stuff that somebody that's in the military would probably know about, and guys that do IT probably don't know about. But that was an interesting point, and that's what I guess the point you're making as well. Sometimes your army will work a little bit against yourself depending on the units that you take.
Yeah, that's what I found.
Yeah. Well, in your case, Rex, I think just to clarify what I was saying, so the more infantry you've got and the more units you've got, so the more dice you've got, you're actually, because your MMGs are going to stay still, pretty static, so they can get their shots off. They've got a longer range, but you're actually closing down your arcs the whole time. The more you advance on the enemy, you're closing down your arcs more and more and more and more and more until you just got this narrow fire lane that you can actually fire it down, and if the enemy doesn't go into those, then you can't fire. So it's like it's just not the right army for you.
Yeah, I think in Bolt Action version 3, Soviets should just be able to shoot through their own guys.
I'm sure if
Stalin would approve,
you'll get that. Yeah,
Stalin would approve.
So Rex, your last game of the tournament, how did it go?
Okay, last game. So last game was jump to action. We already talked about. That's one, for those of you who don't know, you divide the table into 4 quarters, like a checkerboard sort of a thing, and there's 4 objectives there. Without going into a huge amount of detail, if you can get the objectives that are sort of on the edge of your opponent, then you get more points. If you get the ones that are if you keep on your own objectives, then you get fewer points. So last game of the tournament, so I'm fired up now. So I've just had a win. I'm real happy. I've had lunch. I've got a stomach full of sauerkraut and sausage and everything else that's bad for you. And so we launched into this final game. It's Mark that I'm playing, and he had sort of a mostly regular German force, with a lot of vehicles. So a small Panzer tank, maybe a Panzer III. He had a half track. I've never seen anyone bring a half track to a tournament before. I loved it because I love half tracks. He bought one of those half tracks with the mobile bridge on top.
Oh yeah, the nice.
Pioneer one, yeah.
Yep.
And he had Pioneers in it as well. So that was a tough squad. Nice. And so we ended up on a board that had a big river through the middle. And we sort of went, well, okay, looking at the objective, how are we going to play this? We want it to be playable. So we actually ended up playing the river could be fordable, but only at a run and no wheeled vehicles, which was cool. So that gave us sort of a barrier.
He lost out there, didn't he? Because I would have said that river's fordable if you have a half track and you got bridging equipment.
Yeah, actually, he should have. You know what? If he had tried that,
sucked to be you, Rex.
Yeah, if he had tried that, I would have let him do it. That would have been cool. So yeah, this thing had a couple of bridges across, and it was quite cover heavy probably on both sides, but quite cover heavy on the side I ended up with. But it was okay down at my end where I was deploying. So I deployed and got on there, and he had some sort of a armored car that had I think it had a flamethrower in it. Or was that another game I'm thinking of? But anyway, he rolled his armored car up and shot up a couple of my guys, and then I brought on the assault engineers, and that actually no, it wasn't. There was someone else, and they took care of that in a short time. And yeah, it was just rocking and rolling, and it was going crazy. And then he brought in his half track, rolled it forward towards the bridge. And I'm like, right, I know what's going to happen here. So I brought on my tank and pulled it up an inch away from him, and just whacked into him with my tank, and ended up taking out the half track. And all the guys bailed out, but they were all pinned down. But then they were all in right next to where my filthy Soviet machine guns were. So it was just all on. It was just all happening. And then I made the biggest mistake that I've ever made in a war game ever. So I thought I was doing it right. I thought I was king of the world, and I was going to do well. And then I was obsessing about bringing on my outflank. I was okay. So it's turn 3. I can bring them on. Can I get them on past that little bit of bush? And am I going to be able to get around? And because I knew I had guys in the back that had Panzerfaust, and he just brought his tank right up there, right ready for me, right? So anyway, I'm obsessing about that, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, there's still a few dice in there, and what shall I do? And I couldn't get my mind away from it, so like, right, well, I'll just bring on these guys, and we'll see how that plays out, and then I'll move on. I'll do the other stuff yet, because it's not really going to affect it. Anyway, so I brought on my guys. They came on, they rushed on, and then I realized the moment that I put the model down that his tank hadn't activated yet. Like I hadn't waited until his tank had activated. I just got so caught up in the moment. So I brought on my soft skin 3 inches away from his tank, and his tank hadn't activated. And I just went, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I just made that mistake. Anyway, so guess what happened?
You got the next dice.
So he got the next dice and swung the tank around and destroyed my my truck, which is fine. I don't care about the truck, but it had the assault engineer squad in it that had the flamethrower and everything else that was going to destroy the tank, right? So I was really annoyed with myself, like really annoyed. But anyway, they managed to get out of it. Okay, they managed to get out of it. I think maybe I lost one guy, but they ended up with 4 pins, and they just couldn't shake. He just kept machine gunning them and point blank, and I just couldn't shake those pins for the rest of the game. So that was my main squad for the whole game. That was just just done for. But so aside from that, it was going pretty well, and I was thinking, okay, I'm doing all right. I've got this. Dan's gonna be proud of me, and so
Peer pressure.
yeah, peer pressure. So I'm running forward, and I managed to get sort of on the objectives that I wanted to be on, and I was pretty happy with how things were. And I was holding one objective that was worth 2 VP. I was easily holding that we had no chance of holding one objective that was worth 1 VP. I was holding another one I was okay with it. That was 2 VP or 1, I can't remember. But anyway, I thought I was doing well. And I spotted out the corner of my eye a little squad of anti-tank guys of his that was sitting in the bushes. I was like, I wonder if he could make it to the thing. I don't think he can. I think it's a little bit more than 12 inches. But it's okay because it's only 2 regular guys. And I have 2 veteran guys sitting on the objective, one with an SMG. So if he tries to assault me, I think I'll be okay. So anyway, last turn of the game, he runs over, he assaults me. It was within 12 inches. And guess what happened? Which do you think?
This sounds like it's going to be a tale of woe and despair, Rex.
Yeah. So we're in this tussle for life and death, and we roll the dice and we kill one each, and then I don't manage to kill any more even with my SMG, and then so we go again simultaneous, and then he kills one, which is the squad gone, and I kill none. So he ends up with one regular guy on the objective at the end of the game, and it ends up being a loss to me. Meanwhile, I was okay, right? Because I thought I'm going to be able to do some damage and take out one of his units that's on one of the other objectives with my indirect fire. So I rolled it. I knew I was going to roll 6 because I was confident. Anyway, I rolled it. It's a 6. So I'm shooting his unit that's on the objective. I get 7 guys in the template. All right.
Oof.
I kill all 7. There's one guy left on the objective. Now, if this guy dies, right? If this guy dies, then it's a draw. Okay, so that's pretty respectable. Anyway, he passes check. That was the end of the game. so twice I was just sort of done by the dice and one bad decision on my part. But yeah, that was a really really fun game. It was an exciting finish. And a well fought on his part. Yeah, so I got some lucky dice early with the Katusha, and he got some luck late where I rolled badly or he rolled well, whatever you want to look at it. So in the end, he won. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So that was it. So I'll give you my scores then.
Well, why don't you
in summary?
Yeah. Why don't we? You give me your summary. Go for it. I'm sure the listeners want to hear all about it.
Yeah, I've been sort of telling you as I go along.
Yep.
But anyway, so day 1 was 2 losses and a draw, and then day 2 was a win and a loss. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I did better than I did last year, ever so slightly, but I felt like I was a better player this year. So
good.
A couple could have gone either way. So.
Well, why don't you put us out of our misery then, for all our listeners? Why don't you tell us where those results got you in the standings, and then maybe tell us who won and what were the other sort of major winners on the weekend?
Sure. So one of my goals for this year was to paint X amount of miniatures and build X amount of terrain, but also to come in the top half of the ranking for MOAB. It's my main tournament.
Yep.
So I came 21st out of 37. So
I think that's so close. We should get. I think that's so close. You got a smile on your face. I think we'll give it to him, won't we, Aaron?
I agree. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Well, if you add an extra effort and all that, then definitely.
But it sounded like a few could have gone either way as well.
It could have gone either way.
Close.
Yeah.
A couple of
last. That was as I was driving home. I called Dan in the car. I was just driving home, trying to stay awake on the motorway, and I said, if you're losing games, but you could have won that game, then that's hugely encouraging, isn't it? Because you
Yeah.
could. Nobody likes to be steamrolled over where they didn't have a chance. That's
Yeah.
demoralizing. And that sometimes happens, when you get paired against someone in the first round that's way above you or way below you, you just get steamrolled over, or sometimes you just get a set of bad dice. But if you know that you could have won that game if things had gone slightly different or you made different decisions, then that's hugely motivating for next time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Great to hear that. And Aaron, how many games did you win over the weekend?
Ended up with 5.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5 in the end, but
He's
all the guys I played were a pleasure to play, and it was good. I got to play 4 guys I'd never played before, and I'd only played Isaac once prior. So
oh, that's
it's
great.
always fun playing people you haven't played before as well, and
Awesome.
seeing different armies that you haven't versed before, and that's always a good part about it. So different banter too.
Yeah, good. And that's encouraging. I mean, we're talking about, the question is sort of how many games did you win? And yeah, you're telling me 5, but there's other reasons why this weekend's been memorable for you. So that's fantastic to hear. 5 out of 5 wins. Now, I know it was hotly contested, Rex, but where did that mean that Aaron finished in this tournament?
Well, Aaron, 3rd place was not you. That was Sean Clark. Sean Clark with Germans. Now, I don't think I sort of really saw Sean's army.
So I played him in the last round.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. So I think he had already had 4 wins. So he was able to, it was kind of, I was pumped for him actually that he got there in the end, because I think
great.
Yeah. We played that last round. It was a fun game. Yeah, Germans, late war. He shipped brands and Brandenburgers, some Waffen SS.
That's cool. That's exciting stuff to play.
Yeah. A couple of Panzer IIIs.
Awesome.
2 MMG bikes. And I was fortunate enough that one of his Panzer IIIs failed auto test to come on 4 turns in a row.
Oh.
So he was helping me out, doing me a massive solid there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Who was number 2,
right.
Rex?
So, Aaron, you ready? 2nd place was not you. Julian Hughes with Soviets.
Well done.
So I didn't particularly see Julian either, because he was at the other end of the tournament to me. But did you play Julian?
No, I didn't get to play Julian.
Okay, so 2nd place, Julian. 1st place was Aaron Russell.
Hey,
congratulations,
well done, Aaron.
Thanks.
Well done. So not only did you play 5 games,
of MOAB.
Still champion of MOAB. Not only did you win 5 games, but you must have also done well in terms of extra points, battle points, and bonus points, and what have you, to be able to do that as well. So, yeah, it's a feat.
Good on you, mate.
It was good fun. All in all, I think that was good day. Making some friends as well, meeting people, and that's what it's all about. I think we're really lucky as well with Bolt Action community, such a warm and welcoming community as well, which is good.
Good on you, mate.
So you're
really enjoying
you're
it.
pretty modest, but you've won MOAB. You won MOAB last year. You won CanCon last year.
Yeah, at the start of the year.
And then what about the previous year?
Yep.
You won that too. Right.
The viewers can't see, but Aaron's sitting there blushing.
He's blushing. He's such a nice guy that he's like, So
I've got a question for you then. So with that in mind, have you got any tips for people who want to improve their play, without maybe giving away all your secrets? But have you got any tips for people who want to improve their play or want to move up to the next level of competitive enjoyment, as in maybe getting a few more wins under their belt whilst enjoying themselves?
I think the rules is definitely a big one. I I think learning that, just a few things, you'll find that you don't get caught out with certain things will definitely be helpful. I think Rex was explaining that
building,
a bit earlier on. I think that's definitely going to be probably the number one starting point, but also just trying new units and new things. I think a lot of the time we write stuff off because we heard that someone's, that said they're not good, or the general consensus is that this thing can't be competitive. But I do like to try and find a way just to make everything work. I feel like there is, unlike certain game systems I've played in the past, I feel like with Bolt Action, a lot of things can be made to be effective. Which is, probably just, but unless we use them, give them a go, try them in different ways, trying to think outside the box, we'll never actually know. So I think doing our own research through play testing and stuff is really helpful as well. That's how I found a few bits and pieces. I think even an MMG team is like, that's obviously probably the one unit that gets talked about the most in the game, about how everyone always wants it to be better and more effective. But I think even something like that can still be made to be somewhat competitive, even right now in V2 potentially. Definitely doesn't do what we all want it to do, but I think it still could even be somewhat useful. Just not the way we probably want it to right now. We want to run out with our MMG team and hose down a whole bunch of infantry and make them hit the deck for 4 turns, and it doesn't have that effect. But it can still keep a medium howitzer busy all game. It could keep one squad busy all game, and it is only a 50-point unit. So just sort of, trying to find, and I'm using the most extreme case I can possibly find at the moment. Because I agree, they're not as good as I'd like them to be. But I think just trying to find ways to make our units work. I think activation is really important as well. Priority of targets. So what are we going to do with our next 2 or 3 dice out of the bag? What's my highest priority right now? What's my opponent's highest priority? So I can try and work out, we can work out what are they going to try and do with their next couple of dice? What am I trying to do with my next couple of dice? And does that change maybe what my next couple of dice might need to be, depending on what their next couple of dice are going to be? So I think I try and put myself in my opponent's shoes and try and anticipate what his next couple of dice might be as well. So I think activation is a real important one.
Well, that's fantastic, guys. I think we might just take a quick break there, and then we'll come for a roundup in a minute. We've got to talk about Best Painted Army and all that sort of stuff. So take a quick break, get a drink, and I will catch you back in a moment.
All right, welcome back. Thanks to Rex for spotting a bit of a technical glitch that was forthcoming and nipping that in the bud. So sorry about the rather impromptu break. We hope you wet your whistle, grabbed a beer, and you're back with us. All right, so guys, that seems like it was a fantastic weekend of games, and we've been through your results, and we've heard about some other top results from people. Do we want to touch on other awards that were given out?
Yeah, sure. I've got a list of the guys here. So we've talked about first, second, and third. Best Painted Army is always one that's very popular for me. Best Painted Army, Mark Marskill, and that was the LRDG army that we talked about before.
Nice.
With the trucks, the 1940s trucks, cool sort of curved bonneted trucks, and with the chipping and all that. So
Chevrolet trucks. The chipping is outstanding. That was a great army.
Yeah, very, very nice.
Yeah, really nice.
So best mid-war general is again Mark with the LRGG.
Oh wow, excellent, great
Best
results.
late war army. So these are best as in best points wise. Best late war Russell Baron. That was the Polish airborne.
Great.
Best early war is Adam Burke, Blitzkrieg Germans. Best historical list, Bill Baxter.
Great.
And that was the New Zealand Maori one. Now, if you go to our ValhallaGames.net podcast website, blog, that's the word I'm looking for, you'll see there it's the New Zealand Maori ones, and he did a really, really great display board with the guys dug in and entrenched. The Maori guys are doing the haka, and it's really nice. You should
beautiful.
check it out.
Those 2 25-pounders in the dugout.
Yeah,
they look
dugouts.
Cool.
Yeah,
they were really nice.
I didn't see them at first because they were covered by camo.
Yeah,
it was that good.
Great army, well presented, and lots of historical input there.
And then the Hannah Swag, which is the TO's choice for the coolest army for whatever reasons they choose. Alan Thuran, sorry if I butchered that name, which is Croatians in Stalingrad.
Oh, nice.
So that is very cool. So no late war Germans there. That's like something that's obviously a passion.
Awesome.
The Wooden Spoon, Alexander White, first major event. So he was having fun, rolling dice. So, yep, he was...
good on you. Good on you, mate. Well done. Hope you thoroughly enjoyed it, and everybody look forward to seeing you back.
Yep, and he got a prize. Everyone got a prize. So, yep, everyone was happy. Tio's Choice, the final one, Tio's Choice, the most sporting player. And that went to Theo, the guy that I played in game 4. And the comment was, always plays unusual, niche, not always competitive armies with a great spirit and a love of participation.
Oh, great. Good on and well done. Yeah, it's funny because he still stands out in my mind from the very first MOAB that we went to for how keen he was. And yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome that you had a bit of a role reversal there. So that's great.
Good stuff.
And so those are the prizes that, and from what I saw, the guys, Ian and Adrian, did an amazing job of the prize support, because the prize tables were absolutely chocker, weren't they? It's pretty full tables there, Aaron, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they said they had 57 prizes or something, or 52 prizes,
wow.
But just the 37 or 38 players. So everyone went home with at least something. But yeah, phenomenal. And I think it's always, blows me away how generous a lot of the sponsors are for Bolt Action. It's always great turnout for prize support.
Rex, what did you think about this year's prize pool?
Yeah, fantastic. I got a great little prize. It was a double banger. I got some dice and a box of plastic, which was really great.
I think your dice, you showed me a picture. Without looking at my book, I'm pretty sure they're 9th SS Panzer Division. So 9th SS Hohenstaufen.
That's them. Yep.
I have no doubt I butchered that pronunciation. I'm sorry to our German friends.
Yep. So I've already been and had a look on Wikipedia, the place where we find the most deepest and accurate information on the planet. Already been looking on there, looked it up.
Citation required on that statement.
Yeah, citation required. And found that they, where they were fighting and what they were doing, and that's going to end up being the theme of my new army.
Well, that's handy because, of course, they were in Market Garden. So Grabner's charge across the bridge with his reconnaissance force, where they got pietted to death. So that's those guys, Rex, I do believe.
Oh, right. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I knew they were in Western Europe for sure, and sort of around D-Day actions and bits and pieces. But yep, so I'll start doing some reading, and then I'll be reading and painting and playing and reading and painting and playing for a fantastic new army with historical background that next year is definitely going to win Best Painted and Best Themed.
Oh, I like those goals. And Aaron, did you pick yourself up something nice?
Yeah, I did. I got some Japanese Eureka sculpts.
Oh, great.
There
Yeah.
was little sort of starter army put together with some packs of Eureka metal minis. Really nice sculpts, actually. So yeah, similar to Rex, I might have a project on my hands maybe there as well as a new one. So although I won't be going for Best Painted, that's for sure, I'm definitely nowhere near on Rex's level. I'd trade those 5 wins to be on his level, but if only I could paint that well. But no, that's probably could be in the next project. But yeah, a couple of I think there was a printed armored car. Might have been the Japanese railroad car.
Right. Yep.
I think it might have been that one.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think there might have been maybe 20 odd infantry in there, 25, maybe more sculpts, but they looked really nice. So excited to get stuck into those.
Excellent.
Great stuff.
So I suppose a massive shout out to the TOs, right, for you guys' weekend, providing that enjoyment for you and sourcing those prizes and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So well done, Ian, Adrian. Thank you for running that for the second time in a row, and it sounds like it was a huge success. Man, I hope you guys are still running it when I get over there again, so I can take part in it again. Rex, what else did you want to say about the tournament? Have we missed anything out?
Well, look, I'm pretty much done to death. I've talked about all my successes and my failures. I had a fantastic time. Thanks to the TOs again. I guess absolutely need to just do a shout out to the sponsors, which were War and Peace Games. Massive effort on their part, as always. Warlord Games as well. Night Sky Miniatures, really, really nice 3D printed stuff. After the last tournament, once I had their name, I went and bought a whole stack of their 3D printable stuff, and it's really, really nice. Dice of War, who gave me my dice. Thank you, Dice of War. Never had special dice before, so I'm moving up in the world. Dark Castle Terrain. Well, we just have to talk about the Reichstag again, Dan.
Yeah,
and that's probably enough to say. Amazing. Eureka Miniatures, from Aaron's point of view, that's he's got some nice stuff there, and there was some other bits and pieces as well. Rubicon models. I got a Rubicon box of plastic. So again, great guys. Thank you so much to those guys that are just giving things, and we hope that people are going out and supporting them, and making the world go round.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, I suppose it come to that point of the evening when, is there anything else you'd like to add about the tournament? Any favourite parts, favourite moments for you?
Oh, well, I always like seeing the painted parade. Everyone puts out their minis, whether it's on the table or display board or whatnot, and just cruising around and having a look at all of them and just admiring the hard work that people have put in. And I mean, it's kind of what drew me into the game in the first place. I really love that. And there's some beautifully painted forces getting around. So it was really good to see. And it inspires those less skilled painters like myself to try and get better. So I'm inspired to try and improve, and I've definitely stolen some tips off you guys, which have been helpful. But I plan to hopefully step it up a notch again and improve a little bit more in my painting in the next project. So, it was good to see, and good to see your army on the table again, Rex, with some additions. It was beautiful as always. But I really like the armies on parade. That's that's a highlight for mine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to have had a great opportunity to chat with you tonight. I'm sorry I wasn't there to see you face to face, and Rex as well. I get to see Rex in a few months' time, though. I might have to wait a little bit longer to see you. But thank you very much for joining us this evening. Well done and congratulations. And it's always nice to see such a humble guy who's really enjoys getting out to events to meet people and enjoy playing them. And that also has become a really successful thing for you, obviously. But thanks for joining us this evening and dropping us with your knowledge bombs, mate.
Oh, thanks heaps for having me, and yeah, look forward to catching up soon. Hopefully, it's not in the too distant future at an event on a gaming table somewhere soon as well. But yeah, thanks for having me on,
good.
and love you guys' work. It's phenomenal.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron. Good night.
Thanks, Rex.
Stay classy, Brisbane.
See you, Dan.
Good night, everybody. Stay classy, MOAB.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio.